The Detroit Lions have had quite the offseason. It's not every year you see both coordinators on a team leave for head coaching jobs.
Really speaks to the kind of foundation they've built in Detroit.
Definitely highlights the talent in the organization.
Yeah, and speaking of talent, you can't forget the offensive firepower they had under Ben Johnson.
Absolutely. Top 5 in points and yards each of his 3 seasons, even hitting number 1 in scoring and number 2 in total yards in 2024.
Tough act to follow, for sure.
While we're on the topic of following, if you're enjoying this breakdown of the Lions coaching changes, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. Now back to those new coordinators. It's interesting they went with John Morton on offense.
He was already with the team in 2022 as a senior offensive assistant, so not a complete outsider.
Right, some existing familiarity with the system.
And don't forget, he also worked with Dan Campbell back in New Orleans with the Reigns.
That's right. Shared experience there,
Wow.
which could be valuable.
For sure. And beyond that, Morton has a pretty diverse background, too. He was the Jets offensive coordinator in 2017.
And had that stint at USC.
Exactly.
One thing that really stands out to me, though, is his connection to Sean Payton. Worked with them in both New Orleans and Denver. Could we see some of Payton's offensive philosophy making its way into the Lions playbook?
It's certainly possible Payton's schemes are well respected, and Morton's been exposed to them firsthand. Could be a subtle influence on their approach. Of course, he'll also have to tailor things to the talent he's inheriting.
And that's a good point. Sewell Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown Williams, and of course, Jared Goff.
This is an offense with a lot of potential, that's for sure.
A lot of potential for sure. Makes you wonder how Morton will utilize those unique skill sets.
Will he stick with a similar scheme to Ben Johnson or try to implement his own vision? It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Absolutely. And on the defensive side, Aaron Glenn leaving for the Jets, that's a big loss too.
Definitely played a key role in elevating that unit.
So the Lions are promoting Kelvin Shepard from linebackers coach to defensive coordinator. Looks like they're prioritizing continuity.
Yeah, Shepard's a younger coach looking to make his mark, but he'll be under some pressure to maintain the defensive improvements they've made in recent years.
He'll need to get the most out of that group
Yeah.
and build on the foundation Aaron Glenn laid.
No doubt about it. And speaking of connections, it's interesting to see how these coaching networks are all intertwined.
It really is. Like Ben Johnson's offensive coordinator in Chicago is Declan Doyle, who was the tight ends coach in Denver alongside Morton.
Almost like a coaching tree with branches spreading throughout the league.
So do you think this type of movement is ultimately good for the league?
Well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you have these spread of ideas, fresh perspectives, which can be great for innovation. But on the other hand, you have teams constantly losing key personnel, which can create instability.
It's a tough balance to strike, fostering coaching development while also maintaining stability within organizations.
For sure. It's something teams are constantly grappling with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how those pre-existing relationships impact things, like when you're installing a new system.
Oh, absolutely.
Well-
That shared understanding can be huge, especially for a first-time coordinator like Kelvin Shepard.
Definitely a big step up for him, taking over for Aaron Glenn, who's now a head coach with the Jets.
Big shoes to fill, for sure.
Yeah,
But he has been learning under Glenn for the past few seasons.
that's right. Absorbing those philosophies and strategies.
So hopefully that experience pays off. And he does have the advantage of already being familiar with the players.
Knowing their strengths and weaknesses, that kind of rapport can go a long way, especially early in the season.
For sure. But it'll be interesting to see how the players themselves adapt to all these changes.
Yeah, think about Jared Goff, for instance. He's had a resurgence under Ben Johnson, but now he has to adjust to a new coordinator, a new system, potentially even a new play calling style.
That's a mental hurdle for any quarterback, regardless of experience.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to working with John Morton and if he can maintain that high level of play we've seen recently.
And on the defensive side, you have guys like Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston who were really starting to flourish under Glenn.
Right. Can they continue to develop at the same rate with Shepard calling the shots?
Raises the question of how much of a player's development is tied to a specific coach versus their own talent and work ethic.
It's a complex interplay of factors for sure, but I think it highlights the importance of adaptability.
Adaptability in the NFL. You got to be able to adjust on the fly, embrace new challenges, and find ways to thrive in a constantly evolving environment.
Couldn't agree more. And this upcoming season will be a real test of that for the Lions.
They have the talent to drive, but can they maintain that upward trajectory with a revamped coaching staff?
That's the million-dollar question. And while we can't predict the future, I think it highlights a broader trend in the NFL, this emphasis on coaching mobility.
It's like a coaching carousel. Coordinators and assistants constantly moving from team to team.
Often following mentors or colleagues.
And it creates this interesting dynamic where teams are trying to maintain continuity, but you also have this exchange of ideas and approaches happening across the league.
Keeps things fresh, encourages innovation, and ultimately benefits the game as a whole.
So these coaching shakeups in Detroit are really a microcosm of what's happening across the league.
Right.
Constant adaptation, constant change, this pursuit of a competitive edge.
Exactly. And it's not just about the coaches themselves, it's the systems they implement, the philosophies they bring, the players they attract. It all contributes to the dynamic landscape of the NFL.
So we've talked a lot about the coaching changes, but what about the players? How do they fit into this equation?
Well, they're the ones who have to execute the game plan, make the plays, deliver the wins.
Yeah.
And they're facing their own set of challenges with these new coaches coming in.
For sure. Think about the offensive line. They were a cohesive unit under Ben Johnson, but now they have to adjust to John Morton's style and preferences.
And the wide receivers who are thriving in Johnson's system now have to build new relationships with Morton and prove themselves all over again.
It's a transition period for everyone.
Absolutely. Some players might see it as an opportunity to shine, a chance to make a fresh start and earn a bigger role.
While others might struggle with the uncertainty, the changes in routine, the need to adapt to a new way of doing things.
It's a mixed bag for sure, but that's the nature of professional sports. Change is inevitable, and those who can embrace it and thrive in the face of adversity are the ones who ultimately succeed.
So for the Lions, this upcoming season will be a testament to their resilience, their adaptability, their commitment to excellence.
It's going to be fascinating to watch how it all unfolds, and I think it reflects a larger truth about the NFL. It's becoming increasingly competitive, and teams are constantly searching for any advantage they can get.
Which translates to aggressive hiring practices, poaching coaches from other teams, trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. It's not just about finding the best X's and O's guy or the most innovative defensive mind. It's about finding the right fit for the culture, the right personality to lead a group of men, the right communicator to inspire and motivate.
It's a complex equation with no easy answers.
Exactly. But the teams that can consistently identify and attract top coaching talent, those are the teams that contend for championships year after year.
And that brings us back to the Lions. They've made some bold moves this offseason, bringing in coaches with diverse backgrounds and experiences.
Now it's up to those coaches to mold this team into a contender, and up to the players to buy into the new systems, embrace the new challenges, and push themselves to new heights.
It's a collective effort, and we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out.
But one thing is certain, the Detroit Lions are on the cusp of something special.
They have the talent, the drive, and now they have a coaching staff with the potential to unlock it all.
It's going to be a thrilling ride, and I can't wait to see where it takes them.
Me too. And on that note, let's take a quick break and come back for the final part of our discussion on the Detroit Lions coaching shakeup. Stay tuned.
All right, so we've talked about the departures, the new guys, the potential ripple effects.
The big question now is, what does it all mean for the Lions next season?
Yeah, what are their chances?
That's what everyone wants to know. And honestly, there's no easy answer.
No easy answer for sure.
On paper, they have a ton of talent.
No doubt about it. Franchise quarterback and Jared Goff.
Dominant offensive line anchored by Penei Sewell.
Dynamic backfield with Gibbs and Montgomery.
And a receiving core led by Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Can't forget about him.
And on defense, you've got young stars like Hutchinson and Houston who look ready to break out.
So the pieces are there, but we all know talent alone doesn't guarantee success.
Nope, losing both coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, that's significant.
They were key to the Lions' recent turnaround.
The architects behind their transformation from underdog to playoff contender, and their replacements, John Morton, Kelvin Shepard, they have good resumes, strong connections to the organization.
But they're unproven in these roles.
Right, there's going to be a learning curve, some adjustments as they implement their own philosophy.
And build relationships with the players.
Exactly. Could lead to some growing pains early on.
Potentially. But I have faith in this team.
I do too.
They have the talent, the drive, the hunger to prove themselves.
And they've shown they can adapt and overcome adversity.
Look back at 2023. They started 1-6. Everyone wrote them off.
But they never gave up. They rallied behind Dan Campbell and made the playoffs.
Exactly. That kind of experience, that resilience, that's invaluable.
Especially with these coaching changes.
Absolutely. I think this team has a certain something, a belief that goes beyond schemes or coaching changes.
Yeah, with Dan Campbell leading the way, a guy who embodies that same grit and determination, I wouldn't count them out.
Me neither.
So to answer the question, what does it all mean for the Lions' chances next season?
It means they're facing a new chapter, a new set of challenges.
But it also means they have a chance to prove themselves all over again.
Show the world that their success was no fluke.
It's going to be a fascinating season.
Can't wait to see what they do.
Me neither. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Lions coaching shakeup.
We hope you found it insightful.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel and like the video.
Your support really helps us out.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep digging deep.
Go Lions!